Hello, my name is Simon Guay. I'm here to discuss the McAdams versus Marquette University case. This is a case of John McAdams, a conservative professor at Marquette University, a political science teacher, created a public blog criticizing a liberal graduate instructor who refused to permit a debate about gay marriage, claiming that any opinions against gay marriage was homophobic and would not be permitted in her class. Shortly after his public post, Marquette University took actions by firing him. And now the case becomes, is this a legal issue based on academic freedom? And so um, John McAdams goes on to Fox News Channel to express his feelings, allow himself to be heard, and not be shut down. And immediately he mentioned that Marquette University promised he would be reinstated if he apologized, which he refused. So they backtracked immediately. As soon as they knew they had done him wrong, they immediately came to an immediate conclusion of, hey, just apologize and you'll be coming back. But he did not do that. He felt as his academic freedom was violated. And so he went on to pursue a lawsuit based on his rights being violated. And so another component of this interview was the fact that in 130 years, no professor had lost tenure. John McAdam goes on to explain how his incident does not match those crimes that tenure teachers usually do to lose their tenure, such as rape, murder, and much, much larger crimes that will translate to lose tenure. And for him to have lost tenure for a small post based on his view, based on his feelings, based on his freedom of speech, he did not deem his situation as largely as others that lose their tenure. And so there are two cases that William Kaplan, in his book, The Law of Higher Education, mentioned to give us a better perspective of what it means to have academic freedom. Where does academic freedom originates from? Where does academic freedom grow, right? And so this is two cases that back in 1950 through 1960 shaped and molded how we define academic freedom. The first case is Keishon versus Board of Regents. This is State of University of New York faculty members refusing to sign a certificate stating that they were not and never have been within the Communist Party. And so the plaintiffs felt that this was an impeachment of their personal life as to, hey, you don't need to know what we do in our own personal time, right? And so the court ruled in favor of the plaintiffs. Institution cannot prohibit employees from being members of the Communist Party. And so I found and connected to this particular case due to when I gained my citizenship of the United States of America, being born in Mexico, I was asked some very, very lengthy and personal questions. And one of them was, have you ever been part of the communists? Have you ever smuggled drugs? Many, many personal questions that I was like, this is a little odd to be asking, And so I found it very interesting that in the education system, you're not allowed to ask that question due to violating the freedom of individuals. But in other cases, you can ask that. And so I'll have to do a little more research on this matter because as I was filling out my questionnaire, I did feel a little uneasy of what if I answer the wrong question? Will I not be getting my citizenship, right? And so the second case that molded and shaped freedom, academic freedom, is Pickering versus Board of Education. This is a high school teacher criticizing on the local newspaper the Board of Education on their financial plans of the high school. This is no different than John McAdams. It's almost to the T. Just in a different manner of going public. John McAdams decides to go public on social media. Back in the day, in the 1950s, you don't have social media. The local newspaper is your social media. This is the opportunity to express how you feel, your side, and so on. And so, this particular case really defined what academic freedom is. It allowed for faculty members, educators, to have security within the workplace and not just students. And so this case allowed us to define the First Amendment a little better, which allows faculty members protection of free expression such as speech, press, and association in both public and private institution. And so this case on itself, it's not that much different than John McAdams. It's just another form, another time period, but it's just another teacher expressing their feelings, letting themselves recognize what is right and what is wrong. So for John McAdams to criticize this other professor, in my opinion, would side with John McAdams, where a professor denies the opportunity of students to address a question that they might not fully understand. And so immediately, Abet, that's her last name, the professor, shut down the freedom of speech of students that actually wanted to address gay marriage. And so immediately she mentioned, hey, anything that goes against gay marriage is being homophobic. And immediately she labels students as homophobic without even hearing their views, without acknowledging their perspective. And John McAdams did not agree with this professor. And so ultimately, John McAdams believes he was fired for hurting the feelings of another instructor. And based on that, it does not merit for an instructor to be fired. And so John McAdams goes on to win his case. The Supreme Court ruled in a 4-2 vote favoring John McAdams that Marquette had breached its contract with McAdams by punishing him for exercising his academic freedom. Marquette was ordered to immediately reinstate McAdams with his full rights and privileges as a tenured professor. And so although academic freedom, even with the word academic, you might think, oh, it doesn't have to be inside the classroom, doesn't have to pertain to a certain assignment, academic grading, and so on. Not necessarily. Academic freedom is just simply the protection of that First Amendment, right? Free expression such as speech, press, and association. And so that's what academic freedom narrows down, is that First Amendment, not particularly it has to relate to academic situation. It has to relate to an in-class scenario. It's just, hey, professors, faculty members are protected, as are students, on their First Amendment. So yes, this legal issue was based on academic freedom, as John McAdams' First Amendment rights were violated for criticizing someone. And so thank you so much for taking the time to listen to my presentation.